Okay, so today we're going to be drawing this elephant right over here. We're going to be using basic shapes of drawing. Okay, so we have the reference photo, and I'm drawing in Photoshop, but you can use a regular piece of paper and pencil and then follow along with me. When I draw in light blue, okay, right over here, I'm going to pick light blue over here. When I draw in light blue, that means I'm sketching very lightly, okay? Gonna move this here. So when I sketch very lightly, I want you guys to draw in pencil very lightly. I'm gonna go here. So the basic shapes of drawing, we have square, triangle. I know some of us are new students here. Yeah. We have a circle and then a cylinder. We're gonna use all these elements to draw this elephant. Okay. The paper that you'll be drawing is going to be landscape. Landscape meaning that paper is going to be more wide like this. Okay, got it? Okay, you'll be drawing there. So I'm going to start, actually, you know what? I'm just going to have this paper so you guys can measure out a little bit better. Okay, we're not just going to draw the elephant like over here, that small, or over here. I know some students, when they're drawing, they'll start drawing the head over here, here's the ears. By the time they get to the body, there's not enough room for the legs. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the larger shape first. So when I'm looking at the reference photo here, the elephant, I see this body here as the larger shape. When I see that shape, I'm going to place that shape in this paper that we're drawing on. Yes? Yeah, we hear you. Okay, I'm going to mute everyone so I can do this. I'm going to mute all. Okay, so here I'll sketch out the body. And when you're sketching very lightly, it doesn't have to be a perfect circle. You know, I'm just sketching very lightly just to find placement, like an oval right over there. Okay. Okay. Next, I'm going to place where the head belongs. The head belongs right over here. I'm just going to sketch that right here. Okay. Again, at this stage, you don't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be exact. You're finding placement. The ears is a triangle. You see this triangle over here? That triangle, I'm going to place right over here. Okay, there's a triangle. And again, basic shapes, 1, 2, 3, 4, square, triangle, circle, and a cylinder. Okay, I'm going to find where this, let's call it an elbow. That elbow is right over here. I'm just going to place that circle right there. Okay, I'm going to find where this knee is. This knee, we're going to place right, okay. We're going to place that knee right over here. That circle. Okay. And let's see. Someone is here. Okay. Now, next, I'll start drawing in the cylinders. That cylinder from this knee to this elbow is going to be like this. Okay. So we have that here, see that? And then we see this rectangle over here. I'm just going to place that rectangle right over here. Make sure all your proportions are in this right place. The angle is correct. Okay. I'm going to erase lines that we don't need. There's that line that we don't need, and I'm going to erase some of this oval shapes. You guys don't need to erase yours. I'm erasing it on my side, so it's easier for everyone to see what's going on. Okay, now the leg here, we see this as a triangle going this direction, almost like pointing downwards. So when we have that, we're going to sketch that triangle like this. Okay, now the other leg that's way back here is behind this leg. So we don't want that leg to be here. It's almost like maybe half the leg. If we drew the whole leg, it's like this. So we're going to place that leg right over here. We're going to draw that from here to here. And then we have another triangle right over here. I'm going to erase all these lines so everyone can see what's happening. So right here, that triangle is here. So I'm going to place that triangle right over here. So far, we've just been using all these basic shapes. So if you're able to draw these 4 shapes, you can sketch out everything. The hardest part about drawing is trying to get the proportions correct before you start drawing. If you have all the proportions sketched in, everything is easier. I look at this. Let's call this a knee over here, okay? I look at this knee that we had. You see this circle and this circle? I look at the angle, okay? that angle is going that direction, I look at that angle here, and then I'll draw that circle. Okay, because if you're randomly drawing a circle here, it's out of proportion, you want to keep that same angle, and you want to keep that circle within this guide. Okay, I use measurements when I'm sketching and laying out. I'm going to erase this part. I'll have that circle. Now, the next part of the foot, I'm going to draw this foot here, this triangle over here. That triangle lies on the same floor. So the floor is over here. I'm going to place that triangle here. Now, I don't place that triangle directly underneath. I place it a little bit further to the front because the circle over here is here. That triangle is a little bit here. Okay. Erase all these lines that we don't need. Okay, place the triangle there. And then now I place that cylinder. Here's a cylinder that I connect the circle with this triangle. So this circle, I'll place that cylinder right here. Some of you may say that that's more like a square or a rectangle, and that's okay. It's whatever you see. Like I see limbs like arms and legs as a cylinder. Okay, so here's the back of the elephant. This is another cylinder. That cylinder is wider on the top and narrow on the bottom. I look at the angle, okay, and then I'll sketch that cylinder within the same angle. Okay, so it's just like drawing a cylinder in the same angle. So far, so good, everyone? Okay, next I'm going to start drawing some of the head part. Okay, I'm going to erase lines that we don't need here so everyone can see everything a little bit better. Okay, so we have this circle of the head, but on the front of where the trunk is, I see a little bit of a triangle here, okay? I'm just gonna place that triangle right there, okay? Just place that there for shape. Right where the circle is, just place that triangle. Sketch very lightly. Don't draw too hard, because later on, after this, we're gonna be doing something else. Okay, now I'm going to erase lines that we don't need, erase all of this so we can see better. Now we're going to draw the trunk. When we draw the trunk, again, we look at the angle of the trunk. Okay, it's not straight. I also look at where this trunk ends. Okay, I don't worry about this part. I worry about this part here in comparison to where that is. So I look at where this line is, then I'll draw this trunk in this angle. Okay, another cylinder that goes down this way, not straight down. Okay, so right over here, I'm going to place that cylinder right here and then right over there. Okay. And then down here, we have this little partial circle. You see that, everyone? Okay. This is 1/4 of a circle. Okay. I'm just going to place that partial circle right over here. Okay. Not too bad. Just circles, squares, cylinder, triangles. Okay. These lines. Now, you see the elephant tusk? We're going to place the elephant tusk next. The elephant tusk, I see that as a partial circle. So when I sketch the tusk, I'm only drawing that part of the circle. So that tusk starts right here. We look at where this is, and then we sketch that circle right here. When I sketch this tusk, I also look at where this tusk goes. Like here's a trunk from the top of the trunk to the bottom of the trunk. This is about halfway right over here. About halfway, but a little bit lower. So if it's halfway, a little bit lower, I'm just going to sketch this part right towards there. Again, I'm constantly, when I'm sketching, I'm constantly measuring. I'm measuring, looking at angles, looking at proportions. The other trunk starts right over here, which is right in this area. I'm going to sketch that partial circle right like that. Okay. Erase these lines we don't need. Now we also have the back leg. The back leg, we're going to look at angles. See the angle over here? There's a little circle over here. We're going to place that circle right over here. Okay. And then we're going to draw those two lines, that angle like this. And then after that, on the bottom of this cylinder that we just sketched out, there is an oval. We're going to make that as an oval, okay? So we're going to place that oval. We're going to make sure that the bottom of the toes is on the floor right here. And we'll place that oval right over there, okay? Now, I'm going to clean up everything so everyone can see the sketch a little bit better. Okay, then clean this up because we don't need those lines. You guys don't need to clean when you're sketching. Okay, I'm just gonna clean up a little bit. Okay, now you see how, okay, we also need to sketch in the tail. Here's the tail, partial oval. See that partial oval? We're just gonna sketch that oval bottom down over here. Okay, so now when we look at the sketch, we see the shape of an elephant that we build up on our drawing paper. We have enough room, enough breathing room up here, enough breathing room down here, enough breathing room here and here. Everything is drawn nicely onto our canvas, regardless if you're doing watercolors or acrylics or just drawing in pencil. Everything is nicely placed. So when you do those other mediums, it'll be centered. Okay. Now the next step, this is what I call tightening up the sketch. I'm using Photoshop, so I'm going to lock this one. Not only am I going to lock this one, I'm going to make this lighter. Okay, so we can see through it a little bit better. I'm going to maybe reduce the opacity like this. Okay, so because at this phase, I'm going to be tightening up the sketch on top of it. Tightening up the sketch. I'm going to use let's just use red so we can see a little bit better. Okay, now at this stage, I'm going to start sketching more, but I'm going to be sketching more in detail. This time, I don't really need to worry about laying everything out. Okay, I'm also explaining all the steps and what I'm thinking. So for those of you who need to spend more time to catch up, you have more time. But here, you see all these little bumps and dents. Now we're going to be sketching all of those in, okay? So for example, the head here, we're going to sketch that part, and I see that little dent, which I wasn't really focused on during the sketching phase, because this is the phase where I'm going in here and putting that detail. We already know where the ears belong, okay? So I'm just going to concentrate on all the little smaller detail and nuances like this. And at this stage, again, it doesn't have to be perfect. You're still sketching. This is called tightening up the sketch before you start drawing. Okay, we look at the forehead here. There's a little bump here. I know that there's a bump right over here. I'm going to draw that little bit of the eye coming here. Don't worry about having your lines be perfect, okay? You're still sketching. When you sketch all these little nuances, these little bumps and angles, it's just going to make it easier for when you do draw. Again, you're sketching very lightly on top of your initial sketch. Okay, here's the trunk here. Here's the tusk. See, I'm going to sketch that in very lightly. Here's the jawline. Okay, yeah. Now, sometimes I'm sketching, things are a little bit off. I can resketch it, move this ear back a little bit. I'm going to find out where this eye is. So in this circle, every time I'm looking for the center, I imagine that circle here. I'll draw a plus in here. This tells me where the eye belongs. So here's a circle. Here's a plus, is a little bit towards the bottom left. So that eye, here's a circle, bottom left is roughly right over here. Okay, now I have that. I'm going to continue sketching the tusk. Focus on the curves. We're going to work on the other side. We're going to focus on this curve. Okay, now I'm going to continue on drawing all the little details of the trunk. Now, there's something called negative space. Negative space is, instead of looking at the drawing of the elephant, I look at the shape of this object. Okay, so I make sure that's there. Okay, and then we'll go over negative space a little bit more as we continue this lesson. Okay, now in here, I'm going to draw the neck. Okay, we already know where the body is. We're going to draw the neck right over here. The negative space, you see how wide this negative space is? I want to keep that, maintain that negative space over here. So that way, I'm going to shift this leg a little bit further back. And I'm going to shift this leg a little bit further back. I already know where the leg is. I'm just going to sketch on top of it. Okay, and I'm sketching a lot of little light lines. Okay, I'm looking at curves and angles. Okay, here's the other leg. There's a little bump right here on the toes and the paws and the nails. There's a little part right there. Okay, here's the stomach. The stomach goes up to here. Now, I'm also going to look at the negative space right here. Here's a negative space right here. I maintain that. Okay, and then here's this leg. I'm going to draw the tummy over here, that little line. And then we have the knees over here. Okay, we're going to shape this out. This is the feet. Again, sketching very lightly. Okay. Now, drawing is very important. I know some artists, they just want to dive in there and they'll just start doing watercolors or they'll start doing acrylics. And if they don't have the fundamentals of drawing in like sketching things and drawing things, you can be the best painter in the world, but some of your artwork will be out of proportion. Okay, I'm going to extend this. Here's the tail. Okay, here's a little area here. And then here's the knee. And then we have this part. Okay, and then negative space, we look at that little triangle over here. And then we try to create that little triangle here. And then here's the back of this. So now we have the Titan sketch. Okay, at this stage, I would go back and look at what areas that I can like add more lines, add more little bit details. So this, for example, here's tummy here. I'll just sketch that in. The more you can sketch in before you draw, before you start drawing it, it'll be easier during the drawing phase. So I'm going to go in here and look for areas that I can sketch in little details that's not too much drawing. Okay. There we go. Here's the knee, and then here's some wrinkles. I'll just draw it randomly just to indicate. Okay, the toes, you see the elephant toes over here. We're going to draw those. So there's 3 in the front. I'll just draw them as half circles. Here's half circles here. Here's 1 in the front and a half circle here. And then back over here, we have 1 circle here and then a circle there. And then we have all the paws. Okay, so at this stage, usually I'll sit back and then a little bit, and I'll take a look at the reference photo, and then I'll look at my sketch to see if everything is correct. Okay, now when I step back, I notice that the angle off is a little bit off on mine, so I'm just going to go in here and resketch the back. Okay, I can take my eraser and just erase it and just go back and sketch a little bit better right over here. Okay, I notice my trunk is a little bit off, so I can take my eraser and kind of like adjust it, or since I'm using a computer, I'm just gonna adjust it like that. Okay, you can keep yours there. Now, I should mention, sometimes when you're drawing artwork for yourself and you're looking at a reference photo, you don't have to follow the reference photo 100%. As long as it's close to it and it's fairly accurate, that's all that's important. A lot of times when I'm drawing artwork, I'll look at reference photo of a character standing there, and then I'll sketch that pose out to how I like it. Sometimes I'll take like a partial pose of a character that's like the torso upwards. I'll sketch that, and I'll look at a reference photo of the legs, and I'll connect those together, and then I'll draw like another character on top of it. But I use reference photos just because it's quicker. Okay, so now we have that shaped over here. I'm happy with the reference photo, and I'm happy with my sketch. I'm going to get rid of my initial blue sketch, okay? And then I'm going to lighten up my Titan sketch. And then the next phase, I'm going to draw, okay? I'm lightening it on purpose, so that means I can see what's going to be happening when I do in the drawing stage. Photoshop, I'm going to lock it so I don't accidentally draw it. And then I'm going to draw in black, okay? So let me make sure this is black. Okay, good. Now I'm going to increase this. Okay, I'm going to start drawing the elephant now more in detail as I can. Let me make sure everything is on the page. So I'm going to start off drawing the eyes. Okay, so the eyes can be right here. Okay, almost like a human eye. There we go. Always draw the top of the eyelid a little bit thicker. Okay, and then here's the eyes, like that. Next, I'm going to draw the tusk. Okay, and I'm choosing to draw the tusk first because it's closer to the viewer where the trunk is. So I'm going to draw this line. And then now when I draw, I want to draw everything as nicely as I can. Okay, I'm going to use my smoothing to be this helps me draw a little bit smoother line on the computer. Okay, so right here, I'm going to draw this line. We'll start here and go around to the tusk. Here, go around the tusk. Now at this stage, I press down really hard with my pencil. I'll draw a really heavy line on top of my sketch. Later on, if you're drawing with pencil and paper, you can use the eraser and lightly score your paper, lightly erase, and your sketch lines will all disappear, but your pencil lines that you draw really heavy will still stay on there. Okay, I'll look at the negative space. I'll draw all those little squiggly lines for the trunk all the way to here. Okay, and then on the other side, I'll draw some of those squiggly lines right over here. Okay, and then all the way to the bottom of the trunk. Squiggly lines, and then back here, squiggly lines. I'm still looking at the reference photo. Never once am I tracing over my sketch. Never am I tracing over my tightening sketch. I'm still looking at the reference photo. All my sketch and my tightening sketch, that is just a roadmap for me to draw my final drawing. This just helps me draw my final drawing. Okay, so as I'm drawing this, my eyes are constantly looking at the reference photo. I'm constantly looking at the initial sketch, and I'm drawing in all the little details that I can. Okay, darker here. Now the top of the elephant, we draw that, and I'm still looking at all the little nuances. Okay, so here's the bottom of the ear. Here's some of the folds. That. And then we have this part. And then we have the body here. The body, the neck, there's a little dent that goes in, and then it goes to the stomach. Now, after I get there, I'm going to start drawing the leg. Okay, we have a fold over here. I'm just going to draw that fold. And then there's a little dent that goes in, and it goes around the knee. And then it comes back in, and it goes back around the paw. And then we have this part that goes around here. Okay, now on the leg here, there's a little dent. This one goes around. This goes here, and comes back around here. Okay, now I'm going to draw the other leg. I'm going to draw that part right over here. Then we increase that right here. Draw the little dents and wrinkles over here. Draw the paws. Go around those little nails. Come back up. Okay, now I'm going to draw the tummy. Tummy goes here, right around there. And then there's also, that's actually the skin of this elephant. This is part of the skin, and this is the tummy. So I'm just going to draw the stomach right over here. Look at the other leg. We have the knee, a little bit of wrinkles here, and then this one comes back in. And then this one curves around. We have the nails. This one comes back around here. We're going to follow the reference photo, and then we're going to draw this up here. So when I'm drawing, I am a little bit slower because I'm very careful about the drawing. I don't want to draw too fast. Okay, this one goes right around here. Okay, that bump, the bump is closer towards the top here, like this. Okay, and then the back leg, there's a knee. Draw some of that little bumpy wrinkles over there. And then now we have the back of the leg. Okay, I'm still looking at the negative space to make sure everything's in the right place. And then we have the back of the leg. There we go. And then now we have the tail. The tail is wider as it's closer to the elephant, and as it goes further away, it gets thinner. It tapers out to where this cluster is. So right here, we're going to draw that line, thicker, and then thin, right over here, thicker, and then taper off, thinner. There we go. And then we have that cluster right there. Okay. So I'm going to draw all the little nails, on the elephant, little teeny nails are over here, the little circles, half circles. And then we have some half circles over here. And then this is like a quarter of a circle. And then we have those there. Okay, so now we drawn everything, and then we're happy with everything. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to get rid of my sketch. So at this phase, everyone, what you can do is take an eraser, very lightly erase your sketch lines. Sometimes when you're erasing your sketch lines, your pencil drawing of what you're drawing really dark will start to disappear. You can always go back in there and draw it. So I'm going to take my eraser, and I'm going to start erasing my sketch lines. So here's my sketch lines. Take the eraser and slowly erase and then that line would disappear. Okay, make sure I erase the sketch right here. So this sketch, erase, erase, erase until it disappears. Okay, and all I'm left with is the drawing of my elephant. Okay, so on Photoshop, I'm going to lock this so I don't work on the wrong layer. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start shading it. When I shade it, I look at where the darkest area is and where the lightest area is. So I'm going to look for a nice shading tone. All I do is adjust this. So when you're shading, you're going to use the side of your pencil. Make this a little bit darker. I'm choosing my shading value. Okay, that looks okay for me. So when I start shading, I always look at the darkest areas first. So on this whole elephant, the darkest area is this right leg over here. So with that, I'm just going to go in here and shade here really dark. And then the front of the leg, I'll shade really dark by pressing down on my pencil. Okay, you can use any pencil. If you have like a darker pencil, just go in there and just make it really dark. Behind the leg over here, I see some shadows here. I'll press that really dark. Also behind this part right here, shade that really dark. Okay. And then next, I'm going to continue looking at every area that I see a really heavy black value. So I'm going to go here, make that really dark. Underneath here is dark. Underneath the ears is also really dark. So I'm just going to make that really dark here. Underneath the head. And then in front of the trunk, the light source seems to be coming from like this direction on this elephant. So the shadow is on the other side. Okay, so I'm going to continue looking at all the dark areas right here. Even the trunk, there's some shadows over here and there's some shadows over here. Okay, on the eye of the elephant, we have a little bit of shadow here. I'm just going to darken up that. Okay, on the forehead, on the side of here, and the trunk goes up to here. We don't do any smudging. So later on, you guys are going to bring out like a Q-tip or a smudger, or you can even use your fingers if you don't have any of those. Okay. We have some shadows over here. I'm just going to add some pencil lead there. I'll use the side of my pencil and just add some pencil lead in. I don't draw it in. I'm actually using the side of my pencil. So on the ear here, okay, right over here, just adding some shadows. Here, I'm going to increase the size of my pencil so I can draw bigger. Some shadows here, some shadows on this one, some shadows here. Okay, now after I figure out where all the heavy shadows are, I'm going to add this here. Okay, even more on tummy over here, really dark. Okay, some shadows underneath here and here. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my smudger. If you have a smudger, you can use that. You can use a Q-tip. You can use your finger. I'm going to take this and I'm going to start softening all the edges. Okay. Start softening. Like all these crisp lines that I shaded in pencil, I'm just going to take my smudger and I'm just going to start softening it. Okay. Okay. Sometimes if you have a smudger that already has a little bit of a pencil lead in it or a Q-tip that has some like dark, you can use that over again and just start softening up all those lines, those edges. When I was in drawing class, when I was younger, sometimes I'm smudging and I have a big area to smudge. And instead of using a Q-tip or a smudger or finger, I use the palm of my hand, my actual hand, because it just creates a big area. And then it's okay to have your hands dirty. You can just wash your hands later. And when we continue smudging and softening up the gray tones around the elephant. And then when I'm smudging, I'm also looking at the reference photo to see where I can pull some of that gray areas. Okay, we're just going to continue going in there and just soften up some of the lines. And some of you have learned Photoshop, so you can also do the same thing with Photoshop, or you can just go in here and just do the same thing with pencil and paper. Okay, soften up all those lines. Okay, after that, I'm going to go in there and add a little bit more grays, but this time not that dark. Okay, I'm going to ease up on the gray tones, use maybe a harder pencil, harder lead pencil, add some pencil shading in there. And I'm still looking at where it's darkest and where it's lightest, and I'm adding more pencil tone. So earlier I added like maybe a HB, and then now I'm adding like a harder, like a lighter tone over here. Okay, so the trunk, I'm going to add some more gray values around the eye. Okay, some gray values here, around here, and then the ears, just add some of that texture over here. And then it looks like there's some grays over here and here. And then I'll go back and forth using the smudging and some pencil lead to add on. And then I'll start softening up the edge with my my smudger. Okay. I control where I'm smudging. Sometimes if I want to smudge a big area, I'll press down harder. If I want to smudge a little bit, I'll just press down a little bit. Okay, and then I'm just focusing on the edge of the my pencil lines. I don't really smudge the insides that much. Like for example, when I added this gray area, I'm only smudging the edge like that. Okay, and just take your time and then soften up the edge. Okay, sometimes when you're smudging, your pencil line will disappear, like the outline, the holding line that you draw, and that's okay. You can always go back and redraw it darker. This method that I'm doing where I'm smudging, it's the same thought process of when you're doing watercolors. Sometimes when I'm doing watercolor, I'll add like a dark gray or a light gray, and then I'm using water to do the smudging. Like I add water on the outside, and then I'll let some of the paint just run through. Okay, so here's that, and then right here, I noticed that I think I want my elephant to be a little bit darker, so I'm going to go in here and use a darker tone, and then right here, I'm just going to make all of this a little bit darker, just to have more shadows over here. Just darker. Sometimes I'm shading in. I feel like I need more after I smudge, because when you smudge, your pencil line, I mean, your smudging does lighten up. The dark areas does lighten up. So I'm just gonna go in here and just add a little bit more, then more in the trunk. Okay, and then I go back and I smudge again. Just gonna go in here and just soften up all the outside edges with my smudger. Now, you can always watch the video, like maybe later on go back, watch the video and continue doing the smudging. I know usually when I do this by hand, usually I'll take much more time. Like for the 1 hour lesson, I just usually draw a little bit faster. But usually I take much more time. Okay, I'm looking for the areas I need to smudge, and I'm softening up some of the color. I control how much pressure I apply to the smudging. Okay, there we go. Okay, so far all my lines are soft, which is what I want. And then after that phase, I do something where I go back and I'll do final details. Sometimes I'll smudge areas just to bring some of the gray tones further out. Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit more shadows over here and shadows over here, and then a little bit more underneath the neck over here, underneath the neck over here, and then a little bit more around the eye here. Okay, and then I'll continue smudging. Okay, we also have to add some shadow values to the tusk, because right now it's just white. So we're gonna go in there and add some pencil shading. Make sure it's not too dark, because the tusk is more of a white. And we add some pencil lead here. I'm not drawing it. I'm just adding pencil it by holding it sideways. And then I'm adding the pencil it like this. And then I'll just grab my smudger and I'll start softening up that just to get some color in there. I know some of you may think the tusk is white, but if you compare that white to the background white, it's a different kind of white. Okay, and then I'll go back and I'll add a darker value towards the bottom of the tusk. Like this. And then I'll start softening it up like that. Okay. Gonna go in there, add some values to the toes. I'll draw that in. Just give it a little bit of gray so we don't have like nail polish, white nail polish on the toes. Just add some of that color in here. And then I'm gonna add some more shadows on the feet. Then I'm gonna add more shadows to the underbelly of the elephant. And then now I'm gonna start smudging that. Okay, just soften up some of those colors. Okay, so now I'm gonna go in there and draw the eyes. The eyes, I'm just gonna use a solid black, press down really hard, and then kind of darken up the eye. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit so we can see what I'm doing with the eye. I'm gonna add a little bit of a sheen. Sheen is like a little bit of a gloss. The light source was coming from the back right. So I'm gonna add a little bit of a highlight there, and then I'm gonna go in here, fill this out, and then add some gray tones to the side of the eye, just like a human eye. Okay, like this. Okay, so there's the eye. Okay, after I have that, I'm going to go and start tightening up the sketch. Okay, that's the next phase. So the shading is done. I'm going to do final details. Final details is when I go in there and I'm drawing some of the lines of the elephant. So we're going to go in here. I'm going to use a black. Okay. Okay, there's my black line. Shading, lock this, final details. Make sure it's black. I'm gonna use a really sharp pencil, very thin lines. Okay, and then now I look at the pattern of the elephant and I'll start drawing that in on top. So I'm gonna go like this and start drawing some of those line textures around the elephant after you're done shading. Okay. Now, this is all directional. I look at the reference photo to see what direction these lines are, and I'll draw along with it. I don't randomly draw perfect straight lines. It's just very, like, I curve around the object. Okay, so like there's some wrinkles here. Some of the lines over here, I'll just draw those. And then some of the eyes, some wrinkles on the eye, I'll just draw that on top. Now, some of you may be asking, why don't I just draw those during the drawing stage? Why do I have to draw it after the shading? If you were to draw all these lines after you shade, all those lines will start to disappear when you're starting to smudge the lines. So it's better to do all the smudging and blending first, and then draw these lines on top of it later. Okay, sharpen up your pencils and just draw those a little bit darker after the shading is done. Okay, so some of the elephant details over here, I'm just going to draw some of these lines. Okay, we have this line, we'll follow those lines. I try not to crisscross on my initial drawing, but I know this elephant has some like texture crossing, so I'll jump over certain lines. So right now, you're just going to draw all these following the direction. Okay, here's the knee pad, the knees. I'm going to draw this. Okay, so I'm going to indicate a few of these lines. Sometimes it's hard to see my pen tip because I'm looking at both of these. I'm going to zoom in a little bit later, but first I'm going to look at some of the initial wrinkles and just draw those in. Okay, there's a lot of wrinkles, so I'm just going to indicate a few. Okay, some wrinkles that goes around here. Okay, on the stomach, some wrinkle lines over there. And then on this leg. Okay, and then we're just going to continue drawing more wrinkle lines. Now we're going to get a little bit of crisscross happening. Okay, I'm just going to skip over some of the, when I say skip over, what I mean is I'm going to draw some of these lines going this direction, and I'm going to draw some lines kind of like jumping over that direction. Okay, I don't want to draw lines looking like tic-tac-toe. Okay, I want this to look better, and I don't want any of this. Okay. So more wrinkles around the ears, more wrinkles over here. We'll draw some wrinkles on the forehead, around the eye. The more wrinkles you can draw around the eye, the better that elephant's going to look. Okay, some wrinkles here. And you're just going to keep drawing as many wrinkles as you can. It doesn't have to follow exactly. Like there's some cross wrinkling here. And I'm just going to like skip over some of the wrinkles. Jump over. Okay. In the future, we'll do more of these drawing like animals, maybe a giraffe or any kind of animals, just so you guys can get used to drawing textures and details. Okay. Okay. Around the neck, there's a lot of lines over here, so we're gonna draw that. We should smudge the tail over here too. Okay, and then draw some of the fur here. Okay, so the tail here, just use your smudger and just smudge this area. And we'll go in here and just fix more wrinkles, crisscross some of the lines by skipping over. We go around here. Okay, so slowly your drawing of the elephant it should start to take place. Like you can see the wrinkles of the elephant, the shading, the drawing of it. Yeah, add more lines. You could even go in there and kind of like some of the dark areas, just draw more wrinkles around here. I'm going to contour some of the stomach like this, draw lines like this. I'm going to also add a shadow on the floor just to give it an area that is standing on. Let me go in here and use like a gray tone. And using the side of my pencil, just going to smudge a little bit of a floor that is standing on. That. Smudge this. There. Okay, so this is how I draw an elephant, but in all the steps. So the step is we went in there, we sketched everything. After sketching everything, we go in there and then we tighten up the sketch. After tightening up the sketch, we would draw it. After drawing it, we would do the shading. And then after shading, we would do the smudging. After smudging, then we would do the final drawing.